Need to turn the projector on back there?
Recording in progress.
.501. Oops. Did that do it? Yes. Okay. That's strange. I have to mute, Marshall, I have to mute the Chromebook, just the muting the Zoom.
So mute the Zoom and then
I muted
the speaker.
right, I had to mute on the computer. Yeah. Okay, Mark is with us via Zoom, so we have 3 for a quorum. I will call the September 9th MUSD regular board meeting to order at 5:01. Please call roll. Aaron?
Student trustee Young. Trustee River. Trustee Martin.
Here.
Trustee Schaefer.
Present.
Trustee Owen.
Here.
Trustee Gay.
Okay, thank you. We have nothing to report from closed session. Approval of agenda, that should be next.
I'll move that we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Thank you. Please call vote.
Student trustee Young. Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Schaefer.
Yes.
Trustee Owen.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Item 5, public hearing, sufficiency of instructional materials.
All right, so we'll hear comments regarding the availability of textbooks and instructional materials in the district. At this time, we still have not continued to receive no complaints regarding instructional materials.
So this is a public hearing if someone wished to complain about that. Okay.
Or comment.
Or comment. Anyone wanting to comment on that? No? Okay, do we close that, or does it stay open?
Close it.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing for said item 5. Move on to public hearing for maintaining a shorter day for transitional kindergarten students.
Yeah, so I don't believe we necessarily need to have to do a waiver, but we do a resolution for the shorter day for TK. They are doing a half day across the district, and we found out that that's been very beneficial. They are, for the most part, ready to go home after a half day. So
That's,
time for public comment on that.
that's just under 4 hours that they're there, 3.5 hours?
Yeah.
Okay, any public comment on item 6? See anyone? No? Nobody? Okay, we will close the public hearing for item 6. Consent agenda.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second. Any further discussion? Please call vote. Aaron?
Student trustee Young? Trustee Morton?
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Ohm?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Item 8, reports. Olivia is still not with us? Let's see her. Okay, if she joins, we can make time for her later. Tobin, I do see you.
All right. I'm just gonna presentation up. I'll be right with you. Okay, so this is the first time that I've spoken with you guys since the school year started. So we had a successful start to the year. Our theme this year is rebuilding community, and everyone got these fancy hard hats because, as you can see here, we literally are rebuilding this year, and also having been away from campus for a period of time, there's a lot of rebuilding that needs to happen to get school up and running again. Rebuilding relationships, leadership. Half our school has never really been to a full day of high school. So there's a lot of passing on of expectations and traditions. Also rebuilding confidence of teachers sort of being back full-time in the classroom, but also of students being students. And altogether rebuilding our school community. So that is our theme and sort of focus, or one of our focuses for the year. So here are some pictures of moving in. All of these places were, except for maybe one, well, let's see, yeah, we're not core classrooms or general education classrooms or classroom spaces at all. One, in fact, was a closet full of electronics materials. See if you can figure out which one that is. It certainly doesn't look like it now. But these are the new spaces that we are occupying, and everyone on the staff, on maintenance, worked hard to make these places, convert them into something that would be usable and enjoyable for the students. If you haven't seen them yet, the gym parking lot is filled with portables, and they're actually pretty snazzy looking. People are surprised. They look pretty good. And if Paul McCarthy were here, he'd be impressed that we finally have a skybox. We might not have won the lottery, but this is the view out of my office. It's like having a skybox at the stadium, and right now I'm looking out at a couple guys playing lacrosse, and there's Pee Wee soccer going on, and so we finally got a skybox at MHS. One of the big deals about, you guys might remember some reports, all the surveys that we did. All the high school students, the thing they missed the most was being with their friends. And I think the teachers also, and the staff missed being together. So one of the great things about starting up the school year is just being able to be together. You can see the cross-country team up there in the upper right corner. I'll give a little update since we didn't hear from Olivia. Cross-country team did excellent. Hector there on the far left got second place out of a field of, I don't know, 60 or 70 high school athletes. So that's amazing. And I know our JV volleyball team, I think, won 2-0 in their game yesterday. So it's great to have everyone together and doing sort of normal things if you know, under abnormal conditions. Speaking of which, you know, fairly successful start to the year in that department. We did have one on-campus positive we were able to deal with pretty well. We also had a few quarantines that served their purpose that later became positives. And we continue to refine protocols and realize that, you know, like most things, there are unique circumstances that require, you know, finding different or unique responses to them. Not every single scenario neatly fits onto our protocols. So we've been doing a lot of that. Testing, we do some weekly screening of athletes in the chorus. You can see there Marcy and Noah getting ready to screen athletes after school. We do some contact screening if there is a positive that's on campus, and some testing by request for anyone that wants it. And high school students are pretty good about coming in and doing that if they feel like they need to. Amongst all that in construction, we also are continuing our full review year. So we continue the self-study this year that we started in the spring. WASC postponed the visit until the fall because they are backed up. So we have a full year to get our report ready and turned in. So we'll be working on that. And lastly, I just want to thank the staff for, you know, really making this work. You know, we were not ready on the first day. There's so much to do. We still have things to do. It's going to be an ongoing transition into our temporary campus, but everyone was flexible, and, you know, we've also had some shift in staffing that's left some holes to be filled, and people are filling them in and helping each other out. And, you know, most of all, it's because everyone seems to really care that things are getting done. Maintenance has been amazingly responsive. I think it was last week, we had, I don't know how many water leaks we had on top of everything else, but, you know, just getting right on top of things and making sure that we can keep running. And lastly, I feel super lucky just to have a supportive parent and student group who really, you know, make our jobs easier by being understanding, supportive. You know, they'll still ask the tough questions, but it's out of wanting us to do better. So I really appreciate that. Okay.
Thanks, Tobin.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Tobin. Any questions or comments for Tobin? Olivia, I see you're with us. Would you like to give your report?
Sure. So basically, ASB has been planning homecoming and club rush lately. We're having our club rush next Friday, and then homecoming will be the first week of October. So we're trying to figure out like when the alumni game should be, parades, how we're going to do skit night, and if we can, we're hoping that we can do it on the lacrosse field, but that's still not finalized. And so we're going to have class meetings tomorrow to talk about possible themes for homecoming and electing new freshman and sophomore positions. And yeah, pretty much application season has started for a lot of the seniors, including me. I've been working on my application that I'm focusing on, and I'm hoping to get that in 2 weeks. It doesn't have a set deadline, but Carolyn's been helping me with a lot of it. So, yeah.
Thank you, Olivia. Comments, questions for Olivia? All righty. Jason,
right.
Superintendent.
So, we just met 2 weeks ago, so not a lot has changed, but I thought I'd report on the professional development I'm doing this year. It's called Leadership Mendocino. And I just thought I'd read a little bit about Leadership Mendocino. Leadership Mendocino started way back in 1992, so it's a well-established program. It's graduated about 700 people. So the big picture of Leadership Mendocino, just reading right from their website, each year a core group of applicants are accepted into the Leadership Mendocino program. The program's monthly classes are held August through May, each with a different focus. As the classes move throughout Mendocino County, participants will experience a leadership skills workshop, team building, and access to an impressive network of existing leaders, visionaries, and policymakers. Beginning with a framework of leadership skill building at the opening retreat, we proceed to demonstrate leadership and action all around the county through field visits, panel presentations, brainstorming sessions, class discussions, problem-solving workshops, and hands-on experiences. By framing each class session around current issues and by calling on active leaders and experts in those areas, we are able to keep the program fresh and viable for today's challenges as we plan for tomorrow. So that program starts next week with an overnight retreat at Rivers Bend. Does that sound right?
Rivers Bend in Philo.
Philo, yeah. So I'm very excited about this program. I know that a lot of educational leaders in the county have participated. I know that the principal in Laytonville is a part of it, so I'm looking forward to getting to know him a little better. And the director of the Waldorf School in Ukiah is also a part of it. So those are just a couple of educational leaders, but I'm excited about this opportunity. It's something I've always wanted to do. So. As Tobin mentioned, we did have one positive case at the high school. We had 5 here at the K-8, but I want to applaud the parents for doing the right thing, and they informed us quickly that they had tested positive, and so we kept those students home right at the beginning, and I think that limited exposure. And we tested over 200 students twice a week, and all came back negative. So I think that's I know that we can definitely have school or spread in the schools. I'm not saying that that's not going to happen, but I do think that schools are some of the safest places to be right now because we are requiring masks indoors and outdoors here at the K-8 school because many of our students can't be vaccinated. And then at the high school, masks are required indoors. And I just feel like we're taking a lot of safety measures, and I'm feeling very positive about the measures we have in place and the lack of spread at this point. We are looking for a COVID safety coordinator. It's a temporary 1-year position in the district. If anybody out there is interested, it'd be dealing with all things COVID in our district because we have, and like Tobin, I'm going to throw out some thank yous to Kim, Tobin, Aaron, Megan, Marcy, Tracy, and Jeannie for getting all those students tested so quickly, so efficiently, getting the communication out to parents. And I'm going to have a weekly update on Fridays, which will report on number of cases and number of tests that we do here at the district. So I'll keep that up throughout the year as well. But, I think things are going well. And we have a lot of hoops to jump through with COVID, and it's taking a lot of our time, but it's, as I talked with other superintendents and staff members, it's totally worth it to have our students back on campus. So that's all I have for tonight.
How many participants are in the leadership?
30.
What is our protocol if a teacher, for example, becomes infected?
Well, they would stay home. We would hire a sub, and then we would, of course, get all those students tested.
In order for a classroom to be closed, we need a threshold of 3.
Yeah, I don't know what the exact number is. We would consult with the public health department, but that's in the spring it was 3, and I don't know how big that class needed to be to have that number. But if we have a little outbreak in the classrooms, we might need to shut that classroom down. Right. If it was in the school, we might have to shut the school down.
Across the state, there are many districts that have had to shut down classrooms, and And some, I think I was reading that some districts are you know, sending the majority of their students home for 10 days because of cross contacts and whatnot. But,
Mhm.
you know, you think that because of our masking policies, we won't have that problem?
Well, hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully. But I think that we are taking a lot of safety measures. And, you know, here at the K-8, I just think, I mean, there's been maybe a couple grumblings about students needing to wear masks even outdoors, but I think it's totally worth it when they're not able to be vaccinated, and it's a small inconvenience.
Right.
And quite honestly, I think I've heard of maybe 2 incidences where a student really had trouble keeping their mask on for whatever reason, whether they didn't want to or they couldn't for some reason. One was on the bus and one was in the classroom, but very, very minimal disruption so far as wearing masks.
And we have supplies of masks in all sizes for little kids to big kids, huh?
Yep.
How is our sub list this year?
It's not very big. That's a concern we have for sure. If we have too many staff members out needing to quarantine or, you know, testing positive, it's very light this year for sure. Do you happen to know, Erin, numbers compared to other years?
I would say the list right now, we have actually seen an increase in interest, so there are some that are pending. I would think that right now our list is roughly 8 active, and it tends to be, in a good year, upwards of a dozen or more.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Not 5:30 yet. 10:1, modernization construction management update.
Missed all the other.
What did I miss?
MTA.
Oh, sorry, oops. 8.3, MTA. Do we have someone? Yes,
Yeah.
Diana, sorry about that.
No problem. I have less to report. Again, there's not much between, the last meeting and now. More of an invitation or a request from you guys, the board. I'm interested in knowing what would be most helpful to you in your roles in the district for me to be reporting on. What kinds of things do you want to hear about from the union?
Well, certainly, if there are issues that are of concern, we'd like to hear about them. They can be informal. They don't have to be formal. And I think it's not so much that we're looking for you to be rah-rah, everything's good. It's more to realize that you see things from a different perspective, and we value that perspective.
Great, thank you.
I would echo what Michael said, and additionally, it's sometimes hard to get teachers to come to board meetings and present things that are going on in their classes, but I think it's really valuable for board members to get a broad range of input on special projects or just everyday school, what's going on, and if you can convince some people to come to board meetings and talk about their programs, that'd be great.
Great.
I don't have any feedback at the minute, but I will definitely think about it and let you know if I have specific requests.
Great, thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone from CMUS? No. Okay. All righty. And board reports. Mark, would you like to go first?
Sure, I'd like to echo what others have said. I think this has to be the most difficult year ever to start school, at least in a very long time, given the fact that school takes an incredible amount of energy and extra work by district employees, no matter what the school year, when you're starting up, and to lay a pandemic on top of that, it's got to be stressful at times. It's got to involve a lot of extra work for a lot of people. And I just want to express my gratitude to every employee in the district for putting in so much effort and making this work. It's obviously really important to students, parents, and staff. And So congratulations on getting the year going. And on a perhaps lighter note, I have to express some disappointment in our superintendent because he's been having these facility meetings where we learn about the high school construction project, and he's neglected to tell us that another one of our schools is also being remodeled. And I had to learn about that this morning on my Apple news feed from an article in Gentleman's Quarterly magazine, which is about our board president's alma mater. It's quite odd to me that it's in GQ magazine, but there's a story about remodeling the Whale School, not as a school, but as a home. And if anybody wants to read about the Whale School and so on, it's not very in-depth, but there's an article. You can just Google GQ Whale School and get a little local school history. It used to be a school in our district.
I'm embarrassed to say I don't even know where that is.
Ask Winsbury.
Jet Air sent me the link this morning. It's always interesting to read articles about things you know about, and you makes you question all reporting a little bit.
Yes.
Michael?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. I have nothing to report either. Okay. Well, still not 5:30. 10? Is Donald with us?
Well, I don't see him.
No?
Interesting.
Shall we go to note 10-2 and
Yeah.
wait a minute? Water hauling contract.
Hold on, let me text Don. real
Sure,
quick.
no problem.
Okay. All right, so we discussed the water hauling contract at our last meeting, and we modified it, and we sent it out and got it out to the 2 state certified water haulers. And at this point, we're kind of at a standstill because of the way the contract is written for being responsible for the water, but also for the 2-hour minimum that the haulers want to maintain. And so I thought we would at least have that discussion, and I could get some direction going forth. I'd like to schedule a meeting with them to see if we can come to some kind of agreement.
Well, I mean, I still have a strong feeling that by offering the haulers water where they don't have to drive to Fort Bragg or farther to get it, that they should be passing that savings on to the consumer and not just reaping a larger profit. So I think we did the right thing in the way we drafted the document, and if they choose not to sign it, I think that, I'm sorry for that.
I spoke with Jason a bit about this and trying to understand all the details. From having never bought water myself, it's sort of the same thing, but what I had understood was sort of you bought the whole truckload whether you could take it or not kind of situation.
Right, if your tank only held 100 gallons, and
so then,
you'd pay the same as if you were...
now, I guess
the whole
depending on
truck.
their scheduling, if they had someone else who had a small tank, then they could go dump it, make twice as much money. But if they didn't, then they still would possibly have to drive back to wherever their source was. So it isn't necessarily a
But this is-
savings for them.
This is the case where they're charging a 2-hour minimum time to go from the comm school to somewhere in the village. And I just-
Assuming that's where the
Right. assuming
delivery
that's
is, but
what-
we're
right.
offering it to anyone in the
In
district, although I
district.
guess most folks out of the main water shortage is
Right.
in the village,
Right.
the city. I'm not sure, Jason, do you know where else they're getting water? Do they have any other sources?
I don't know, are they still getting it from Westport, or is it really
you
over
know, Michael?
over the
You
hill?
don't know?
I don't know either.
I have seen.
I know the county has been pretty much unable to bring water from Ukiah to Fort Bragg, which was what the Board of Supervisors was trying to do as an option.
Right.
But they just posted something this afternoon to say they've been unsuccessful in finding any water haulers.
Which I'm thinking maybe they want a bigger truck or something. I
They're
heard that
trying
too.
to, they're trying, I think, they're trying to get 40,000 gallons a day in not that many truckloads, so you'd need a double carrier probably, and let's see, what's
At
the,
least, because the local guys are 3,500.
right?
Yeah, I don't know what a big old long truck, well, we digress a
think-
little. Go
I
ahead.
think the big trucks do 10,000 gallons. Ted William had a post on Facebook today. I think the first loads came today. There's a picture of the truck. It's much bigger than the local haulers. And I think it does 10,000 gallons per load coming over here.
Are they using the other haulers to deliver, or are they going to multiple homes?
No, what the county's subsidizing is only taking water from Ukiah to Fort Bragg, and then that allows Fort Bragg then to sell that water to local water haulers on the same basis that they were selling water
I see.
prior to this.
I see.
This allows them to continue to sell water in spite of their stage 3 emergency.
I see. So it's not necessarily the same molecule. They're just dumping into their tank and then
Right.
selling the same amount.
I mean, they're dumping it into a place that Fort Bragg will then treat,
Right.
and then that's what the potable water that goes to the water haulers.
Right. Well, it's a, if we choose to be intransient in our position, we have no leverage over these haulers. Ultimately, who might lose out is the folks who don't have water.
No, I think, in my mind, one thing that we might want to think about, is whether or not we want to allow people with their tanks in their pickup trucks to be filled up, and how we would go about doing that. Obviously, it's a lot more cumbersome for us to do it piecemeal than it is to do it to the water haulers, but, at the same time, if we don't use our leverage to try to, there are a lot of people who have tanks under 1,000 gallons in the village. And if they have to pay the full price of 3,500 gallons, so that's $70 plus 2 hours of travel time, they're paying a lot for that 1,000 gallons, and
Right.
the hauler could go just down the street with somebody else who needed 1,000 gallons before and he's still under his.
Another 2 hours.
Right.
Right. Was
And-
that clear whether it's the 2 hours plus the cost of water?
Well, the 2 hours was not, I didn't even know about the 2-hour minimum when we created this contract. We had just indicated that we wanted them to sell, if their tank was not fully gone, if they, they would just continue on
Right.
and not charge that second house for the full
Right.
time. I had no idea about the 2-hour minimum.
Let's pause for a minute. Is there anyone with us for item 9, parent community comment, non-agendized items? I don't see anyone. Anyone, Aaron, that you see? No? Okay.
And then just Don wasn't aware of the meeting. He said, I didn't know one was so soon. So he's in Laytonville at their board meeting, which starts at 6. So he's trying to get on, so maybe we could have him do his report when he gets on. If that's
Sure.
okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
he sent us a report, right? Wasn't that part of the,
No, I didn't get
Oh,
a
okay.
report. He wasn't aware of it, of the meeting.
No, and we saw him at the facilities meeting, and you let him know it was coming right up, but
Yeah.
he obviously didn't get it down.
I mean, at the very minimum, I could meet with the haulers and just see if they have any flexibility here. I haven't even met with them,
Right.
I
I mean, I guess I think it's clear that that's I think I'm hearing you, Michael, and I think we're all agreeing, is our intent is to give this water at an affordable rate, and especially folks who might have a smaller tank, not have to pay a surcharge for having a smaller tank. And I don't think we're interested in trying to cut into their expected earnings of these haulers in any way. but but there's the possibility, if they maintain their same pricing, that they could make quite a bit more money, I guess.
I don't think we understand the economics of their situation, and I don't think as a school board we can get into that on a micro level, but I do think it would be really important for Jason to sit down with them and try to gather information, because I don't feel very well informed on what it means to leave a smaller amount of water for somebody. I've purchased water a couple of times. I have a 2,000 gallon tank, and you know, it costs a lot of money, and I think we're at the very beginning of this. It rained today in Fort Bragg a little bit. I don't think that means anything. I think that it could be much worse by next year. It could get a lot better for a couple of years, and we could relax, unfortunately, because I think long-term, the future of Mendocino as any kind of an economy with restaurants and hotels and so on, grocery stores, is in danger. And we have to understand a lot more about our local water sources. In talking to Ryan Rhodes, you know, every cup of water on the coast has some sort of law or neighbor or somebody who's got some concern about it, and it's difficult to just get water anywhere for lots of reasons. And I think we're going to be spending a lot more time on this, and we need to be well informed. And I really want the school district to do whatever it can to help out, as well as being responsible for, obviously, for school water and fire prevention. But it's going to take a lot more work.
Okay, I agree. I see that Dawn's with us. We'll interrupt this and see if we have more discussion. Donald, hello.
Hi, how you doing? Sorry, I didn't realize we had another meeting coming up so fast.
That's
Yeah,
all right.
it's a weird part of our schedule, our board meeting schedule, that we have to have it before September 15th. So here we are.
Oh, okay.
And I know that you probably,
I'm happy to join you.
okay. So if you could, do you have any update for us?
I pressed QK yesterday if they got their permit yet, and she said no, and she was going to check with DSA, but she hadn't got back to me on that. Other than that, I've talked with Tobin and Jason a bit about progressing, but we're kind of on a holding pattern still. We're trying to do some little improvements over at the temporary facility in the interim. I just talked to Paulo maybe a half an hour ago. But we're just kind of on a holding pattern, waiting to see get the permit and then get the final GMP from them and see where things land as far as that. We've got a advisory meeting next week with Jason and the advisory committee, so we'll prep for that and basically inform them the same thing we're informing you, but less than a monthly basis. So,
Donald, you've worked a lot with DSA. Did they give you an indication of when they're going to make a determination and stand by it, or is it something you approach on Monday and you have no idea whether it's going to happen this week or the next week or the week after?
Yeah, it's a bit of an anomaly now. I mean, the procedure used to be you would get comments from them when you submit your plans, you'd address them, you'd make an appointment in Oakland, you'd go to Oakland and hash it out. By the time you leave the meeting, it's resolved, or worst case, you have one more meeting that you go back to Oakland for. That's the old way. Now with all these Zoom meetings, it seems like they have the proclivity to drag it on and ask more questions. I haven't been in that trap too much on my own projects, but I have noticed when submitting stuff lately that, you know, they're real hesitant at accepting things until it's in order, because they're so deluged with work right now, which would make me think they'd want to clear things out and get them done, you know? Which is the opposite of them dragging on. You know, all I can really say is I know from correspondence or talking with them that 2 out of the 3 disciplines have approved that it's structural, that keeps bouncing their back with more questions or or related questions. So I don't have the meat of it because I'm not connected to the Bluebeam. Bluebeam is a software program they use for doing these plan checks that are remote rather than in person. And I don't have access to the correspondence in the Bluebeam to see, what's the depth of the questions, or are they coming up with fresh questions, or what? I've been saying it, but I would expect that they would resolve it and would have a permit in a day or so. But, I said that a week and 2 weeks ago, But it is a real anomaly, but TSA is kind of a different beast right now. And that's really all I can say.
Okay, well, thank you. And
I'll reach out to Anna again tomorrow. She hasn't got back to me since, I pinged her about 7:00 yesterday morning. She said she hadn't, she was gonna check in with them. So I'm in the office settled in on stuff tomorrow, so I'll ping her again and see if she's got any more for us. But I would hope that we could get it resolved by next week and keep moving forward. It's really a hang up right now.
to say the least, that's the understatement of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Sorry, I wish I had more for you.
That's all right. Any questions for Donald? All right, well, thank you so much. We'll be in touch.
All right, well, I'm a bug out. I'm closing out another project, so I'll finish that up, so I'll be ready for the next board meeting.
Sounds good.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, so that took care of, what was that, 10-1? Back to 10-2. I think,
Under 10.1, I mean, because it.
Yes.
Because
sure, do you want
Jason
to,
included the fact that we've submitted the photovoltaic plotting to the county, that we should acknowledge that. And
Sure.
the plans that were sent for, I guess to get permission zoning-wise,
right,
were in the area where the portables are and also on the
the hill
field.
slope.
And as far as I could tell from the document that I saw, that was all, those were the only areas that were submitted.
I believe you're right, and my recollection was I thought we had talked about adding in one more possible,
I thought we were saying
Component.
we could put more in and not use them.
Right.
But it's harder to amend it and include more sites. But does that not come up in your facilities committee discussions?
No, we didn't.
well, I'm trying to think. I forget who, I know I spoke with you at one point about it. I just saw the email threads. That was our, I'm trying to think who put that in for us, the consultant that we're working
Yeah,
with.
Darcy.
And was that an add-on to a packet, or was a full packet waiting for that piece?
I think it was the full packet.
I think it would be
I can call
important.
Mark tomorrow and get some
Mark and,
I mean, as I remember, there are various timelines, but one of them is that we have to submit a plan to PG&E to get grandfathered in before the end of October.
I thought that was his cautious, because that was coming from,
The
was the
consultant.
the solar guy.
Right, and
yeah.
that we had to get actual, a plan and operation around the first of the year, and to do that, we had to put it out an RFP for various, funding solutions.
It sounds like we should get some clarity. What I'm recalling is that there's actually two pieces, like the county piece and then the PG&E piece, because I believe he was suggesting put in way more than we might build out, or maybe not way more, but a bit more, and that was to get acceptance on their side before before the PUC possibly votes on a new net annual metering scenario that we don't want to fall under.
Right, I mean, I think they've already voted on it, and we want to be grandfathered in on the old rules rather than the new rules.
Okay. Well, it sounds like, you already made some notes, Jason?
Yeah.
We should get some clarification, because if that's just enough, it seems like we should add a couple other arrays. My opinion always was up at the top of the hill by the water tank would be the next most logical place, and to at least have that on paper as an option. As far as buildable. In my walking around the site a bit this last week, that hillside is, in spite of the fact that it is going to be more expensive to build on, I'm coming around to seeing as it really seems to make the most sense in terms of not compromising use anywhere else. But
I walked around also, walked around the whole perimeter, and in terms of visibility, it seems very well hidden to me. It doesn't seem to me like it should be a concern on that level.
you're talking about the hill slope or both?
Both.
Yeah. No, I don't think you'll be able to see them from anywhere off the district except way out by the bathrooms maybe on Heiser and over at those private homes accessed off of Heiser, maybe. So,
I mean, we anticipate that there are many parts of this before it goes to fruition, but one of them is we'll have to go before MHRB again to get their approval. But simultaneous with that, we have to get the funding in place, or otherwise it's not going to happen.
right. And there's a question whether MHRB has jurisdiction.
There is, but that was the case anyway.
It's been that way for, yeah,
You know, but we're being good citizens and you know,
right.
debating it with them.
Yes. Exactly. Okay. Well, so it sounds like we'll get a little more information
Yep.
back on that one. Anything else under 10.1?
And I think 10.2, we've pretty much
Yeah, I think we've pretty well,
done that.
I think Mark summed it up pretty much, is that we need some more information.
Yeah.
Because with this, we have this piece right in front of us, but water is going to continue to be an issue. We're probably going to continue to have one of the best sources in the town, and figuring out how we can share that while meeting our needs. I think we
And I think
all agree.
Especially if one or both of our, you know, grant proposals come in online in the next couple of years, we'll be having even better capacity to help out.
Indeed, and that's, I think, I appreciated Jessica's comments on the previous meeting, and what she was asking, I think, is what the state is already funding,
Right.
which is greater resiliency, greater possibilities to serve, diversity, upgrades, et cetera. So, okay. Any other comments on 10.2? Okay, 10.3.
So the Oversight Committee update, we were supposed to meet yesterday, but I realized that I never noticed the meeting appropriately according to the Brown Act, so I had to cancel it. And we are all set for next Thursday. So I will give an update in October.
Okay.
And you anticipate that group meeting twice a year or something like that?
Yeah, we were thinking twice a year.
Is there, or minutes or comments or anything requisite to certain steps in our,
Yeah, so that, you know, that, I pulled out the paperwork that said what the district's responsibilities were, and so, are you asking, do we take minutes and?
no, in terms of, if it doesn't meet, can we not borrow our next round, or
Oh.
where does it fit in? Is it just, you got to do it and no one will ever, and maybe someone will check, maybe someone won't, but you just have to do it?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
All right,
Sorry.
okay. Okay. 10.4, budget update. Do we have Meg? Are you with us?
She was here
There you
earlier.
are. Hi, Meg. You're muted. You working on it?
There, I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Okay.
Meg, before you start, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Because I asked Jason, he was in our consent agenda, we approved some stuff around Muse, and it skipped a year. It was, I believe it was 18, 19, or 19, and then 20, 21. Was that correct?
Yes, so what happened was the 1920 donation, they were waiting on documentation to substantiate that the expenditures happened, the level of the expenditures, because it's my understanding that they will approve a donation amount, but if the activity or the project doesn't cost as much as the donation amount, they don't give the excess. They'll pay for the project but not give the excess. So they were waiting for backup documentation for the actual cost of some of these things, and that's why, just nobody in the, with COVID and people working remotely, it was hard, I think, to coordinate to get all the stuff that they needed.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I was correct.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all yours. Take it away.
Okay, I can't wait. I'm sure you can't either. Okay, let's see. Why am I having problems sharing this screen?
She is covered. She is?
Share screen. Share that. Oh, because I have to hit share. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to go over the 2021 audited actuals. And so I sent you guys a email this morning because after I submitted the report last week, I ended up working with Tobin on the SWP, the Strong Workforce Program fiscal report, and realized that I had some expenditures coded incorrectly. And if they're coded incorrectly, then the expenditures can't count toward the program direct cost or the program match. So I felt even though the dollar amount and the impact to the budget was so small, it was still important to change the coding. So the coding changes, and then also I figured this is a good chance to kind of talk about the coding. The coding changes that I made were to the goal and the function. So we have a 26-digit coding code that we use to tell us about expenditures and who is going to benefit from the expenditure, what are we kind of using the money for, and where is the money coming from, whether the money is restricted, unrestricted, and what site it goes to, and it tells us all sorts of stuff. So the codes that I ended up changing were really kind of in this goal function area, and I only made one resource change, and that was the one little piece that changed the budget, and it's negligible, it's $1,300. But in order for costs to be counted for both the CTE program and the SWP program, they have to have a special code, the CTE SWP code 3800, and an instruction function, this 1000. And so because I've changed these two, and mostly the function, it changes how the other reports in the whole SACS report calculate certain parts of things that we keep track of. So it changed other parts of the SACS report. So this kind of, I set out so you could see where the changes were in the budget so you know what you're approving. And here's the original budget, and all the little green sections are where I changed. So other state revenue went up from 921 to 922, which is the $1,300. And then we moved expenditure from the unrestricted side to the restricted side because we were moving it into the SWP program, and the same with benefits. And so these are, like I say, these green sections are all the little sections that we made changes, or I made changes to. The net effect is it increased the ending fund balance by $1,291. But even though it's small, I felt it was important in order for us to capture the cost for this year to show the program people in Sacramento that we are implementing the program. The cert form that you guys are going to end up signing when you hopefully approve the unaudited actuals changed very little as well. The cost of current education went up slightly to 56.05%. A unified school district is required to have spend at least 55% of their expenditures in the classroom for classroom compensation. So we meet that. We had no problem with the ESSA, the maintenance of effort. Our GAN appropriations, subject to the limit, went down slightly, not even $1. So you see it kind of changes everything around. And then the other forms that had minor changes were the program cost report and the special ed MOE report. And the reason for that is because all of these reports look at expenditures at the function level rather than the object level. And so it kind of altered the calculations. So are there any questions on that before I go on? Okay, so then these next slides are just the comparison of the unaudited actuals to the estimated actuals, where I thought we would end up in June when we built the budget for 21-22. So total revenues came in at about 4% better than what we expected, and most of it is because of the change. The most meaningful part is because of the change in secured property taxes. They were up 1.2% higher than we thought. Timber tax was up 12% over what we thought. And the unrestricted federal revenues were up, up 40%, but it was only $7,500. The other big thing that caused revenue to go up was this item here, the state restricted revenue. And this is changing because of, it changed the way that we capture the water projects in the budget. Previously, we were just kind of netting them on the books and not showing a revenue and not showing the expenditure for the project. It is, this is going to end up being a big project, and we really should be documenting both of them and capitalizing the project eventually. So for now, I've added the expenditures to the capital assets worksheet, and they will sit there as a work in progress until the construction is done and everything's put into place, and then we'll start depreciating that asset. That's it there. For the expenditures ended up about 2.5% higher than expected. And on this one, here in letter C, I added in the capital outlay for the water project. So this is where the water project should be captured in a object, 6,000. And the salaries, if you look at the total in salaries and benefits, they really didn't change much. What happened was, we had changes between unrestricted and restricted just as we close out the books. Things, just don't sit right, and, things would have to move, or we have extra restricted dollars that we really should be spending, and maybe we move some unrestricted people who follow the project guidelines into restricted, or vice versa. We could have too many people in a restricted program that we need to move to unrestricted because the program doesn't allow contribution or something like that. So, but really, it didn't really change that much. The increase here in the certificated staff salaries had to do with end-of-year stipends that weren't quite captured correctly in the budget. Materials and supplies, this one, letter F, this one shows that on the restricted side for materials and supplies, we were $69,000 less than expected. And that had to do with the SWP program, because the grant amount is $60,000, and the full $60,000 was written into the budget to be spent all on materials for last year, which didn't happen. And that's not how the grant is set out. So in 2021, we'll budget it more consistently with what the grant documents and what the application was, rather than lumping it into one object. Operating expenditures on the unrestricted side, the utilities came in slightly lower than what the projection was. And on the restricted side, the maintenance and operations costs were slightly lower than what was projected. And overall, the contribution, that's the other one I want to talk about. Contribution was down, and most of this was special ed. And so what happened in this year's budget is that we had some areas of the budget, like that unrestricted federal dollars. Those dollars are used for special ed expenditures. We still get to capture those in our special ed MOE. We just don't make a contribution for it. So the contribution had gone down because special ed expenditures stayed at the same level. They're just, they were captured in different resources. So the end result is our ending fund balance is up by more than 6.5%, by about $174,000. 145 of that on the unrestricted side, and most of that, really is due to property taxes. And then on the restricted side, up by about $30,000. Any questions? This next slide, this shows the property tax history. And overall, our property taxes were up 1.8%. And most of it, our biggest driver of property taxes is secured property tax, and that was up 2.75%. The next biggest driver is kind of between the unsecured and the timber tax. The unsecured tax kind of stays at this 150 level, and it was down, it bumped up here in 1920, and so it was down about 7%. And then timber yield, since the last recession, it's kind of steadily been growing and topped out here in 1819, and has started to come down. So that was down, 13%. So again, overall property taxes were up about 2%. And then the other part of LCFF revenue that we're supposed to talk about and let people know how we spend is this EPA, the Education Protection Account. So this year, and because we're basic aid, this comes to us as a flat $200 per ADA per year until this goes away, until it sunsets. And the current year allocation, we received $97,700, and then we had a prior year adjustment where we received another $13,000. So in all, we had 110, almost 111,000, and all of those dollars are used to offset certificated salaries. So then this next slide shows the COVID funding that we received and spent in 2021. So overall, in 2021, we received $691,000 in COVID dollars, and we spent $500,000 of it. The dollar, I don't think I need to go over each of these. This was the big one, the Corona Relief Fund. That was the big one that pretty much came to districts with a wide open ability to spend on many different things. And that one had a spend date of last year. And so some of these we met all of the spend dates on all of these. Some of them were ahead of schedule. We had $437,000 in federal revenue, $250,000 in state revenue. And then this over here shows how we spent the dollars. So we spent about 50% of the dollars on salary and benefits, another 30% on materials and supplies, 18% on operations, and then I took the indirect when I closed the books. And of the materials and supplies amount, this 147, 46% was spent on technology, and about 43% was spent on maintenance and operations, like PPE and cleaning, masks, and that kind of stuff. And then of the operations dollars, this 92,000, 62% of that was spent on connectivity for the internet for staff and students. Any questions on any of that?
You did very fast work on that, Meg.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that you would like to see it. So, the next step, so going forward, I'll be continuing to update the budget and working on the COVID funding sources that we're going to receive for 21-22, and kind of map out how we think we're going to spend it. And then I'll update the revenue and expenditure projections, other revenue, as we understand what we will be awarded, and expenditures as we know them. We'll update P1 taxes in December before first interim, and then we continue to make adjustments to personnel as people move around and all that kind of stuff. So the auditors are going to come for their second visit for the 2021 book, and it will be a virtual visit, and they will come November 8th through 10th. Most of that, generally the second visit has to do mostly with the budget. So hopefully they won't bother everybody else as much as they normally do, and they'll focus just on the budget. First interim of the multi-year projection, our first interim meeting is December 9th. And then the audit, the 2021 audit, has to be finalized no later than December 15th, and it needs to be presented to the board no later than our January board meeting. And so that's really all I have, unless somebody has any questions.
I don't
And
have,
then the only thing I'd like to say is when you approve it, hopefully you will approve it, I think you should approve it. You're going to need to approve it as amended or as corrected, please.
understood.
So I'll make a motion to approve the amended unaudited actuals report.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Please call Aaron.
Student trustee Young,
Aye.
trustee Morton,
Aye.
trustee Schaefer,
Yes.
trustee Ohm.
Yes. Thank you. 10.5, resolution of 2021-15. This is referring to our meeting in the beginning.
Yep, so this is just notes that all of our students have textbooks and instructional materials.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'll move that we adopt resolution 2021-15.
I'll second. Any further discussion? Please call the vote, Aaron.
Student trustee Young,
Aye.
trustee Morton,
Aye.
trustee Schaefer,
Yes.
trustee Ohm.
Yes. Okay, 10.6, on a similar vein.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm not actively applying for a waiver. It was determined a couple of years ago that I don't need to apply for the waiver, but maybe we can look into this to make sure that we even need to have this resolution, but in the meantime, we should pass the resolution.
Okay.
But I'm going to look into it, make sure that it's necessary going forward.
I noticed in the printed copy, there's an error on the last paragraph in terms of it listing Jim as clerk instead of me, even though down below you list me as clerk.
That's been corrected, and the corrected form is on the website and presented
Okay.
here tonight. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Well, passing the resolution can't hurt, even if you don't
Right.
make the application.
I move that we adopt resolution 2021-16.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, please call the vote, Aaron.
Student trustee Young,
Aye.
trustee Morton,
Aye.
trustee Schaefer,
Yes.
trustee Ohm.
Yes. Okay. That's a wrap. Any additions, changes to 11?
I think we talked earlier today about training regarding, special ed, and especially in relation to improving our practices.
Right, and we wanted to maybe talk about that, not necessarily as an agenda item. Are you talking about agenda item?
Well,
Like-
agenda
As a
item for a
special-
workshop.
For a special,
Yeah,
for a
the
workshop.
January?
For a
Yeah.
Yeah,
workshop.
so the next workshop is October 6th, and so we'll have to get together and talk about that agenda
Right.
soon. But yeah, I will remember that for the January workshop.
Okay. Anything else, Mark? You just shake your head no. Okay,
Nothing from me.
all right. Thank you all. Meeting's adjourned.